Do 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 do. Music is playing. Music is playing. Do 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 do.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you're all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Getting Tabled. Welcome back to another episode 94. With us, we have the main man. We have just a regular Ammon. There's nothing really that special about him.
Nope,
it's the
just
main
me.
man. It's Major Socks.
Hey guys, how's it going? Evening. We're missing George because those of you that are living in the States, you know it's our Thanksgiving weekend and that's where he's off. He's off having Thanksgiving dinner with his family. But up above me is, or down below me, I should say, he's down in the upside down world of Australia, is Bruce. So
Yep, I am here. Unlike George, I don't think that food is more important than the podcast. So, just look, George is selfish. What can we say? It's just the way that things are. How have you been, Socks?
good. Kind of taking it easy with family. Been in town we've had both my family and my in-laws in town within a couple weeks of each other this last month and a half, and so it's kind of nice to be just ourselves and relax a little bit without family around. But otherwise, doing well. Yourself?
Yeah, no, it's been good. Well, work's been a thing,
Yeah,
but
other
yeah,
than
it's
work.
been fun. No, it's been good. It's been good. Just kind of getting things done. What about Black Friday sales? Have you dipped at all, or you've been a good boy? Why does your "yes, I've been a good boy" look very guilty?
Because I got my stuff a few weeks ago when I was already early Black Friday sale.
Ah, fair enough. I did buy a couple of things that we will talk about later.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
All right, and we are starting by returning to a company that we've spoken about before, Brutal Cities. So these are the guys that did that really big building that we were saying was perfect for Drop Squad. More about Drop
Yes.
Squad later.
In a minute. Yeah.
They are releasing, ironically, it's being released on Black Friday weekend. Hang on, why is that? That shouldn't be there. That can go away till later. All right. They're releasing a whole new set of terrain they're calling Fade Light, which basically incorporates see-through elements. So
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
yeah, I'm going to start with the modern greenhouses because this is really where I feel it shines. Because this is something that you would not be able to pull off effectively with MDF or 3D printing.
No.
Oh, no. If you had a see-through, with an FDM printer, if you had a see-through, like an
Clear
actual
plastic.
clear one, and maybe even with resin, but I think you'd struggle to get this to print on a resin printer, at least with the thinness that you would need it to look real. But this stuff looks amazing. Like, they've
Yeah.
really gone out of their way with this.
So the actual structure of the building almost looks like it's still MDF. Yep,
Yes.
it is still
Yeah, it
laser cut
is.
MDF, but then they have that plastic see-through tarp-looking material as the actual greenhouse part like you'd see on a normal greenhouse, and it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's a thin acrylic by the look of it. I don't know
Yeah.
for a fact that it's acrylic. They just kind of say that it's plastic. But it's a firm material. It's not a film. It's definitely like a proper plastic
No.
card type material.
You can definitely tell when you zoom in on the picture. It's probably a millimeter or so in thickness.
Yeah, it'd be a mil, maybe two.
Maybe.
There's no way it's any thicker than that because if it was, you'd be having trouble with it bending at that point, most likely.
Mhm.
Now, on that front page, we are seeing everything that is from their new range, including a couple of bundles, because you always have to have a bundle. But I want to have a look at the Obligatory Holdings HQ, or Obliquity. I think that's a word that they've made up, just for the record.
Mhm.
And I love the fact that they've set this up with LEDs on the inside of it, with what is very clearly a sniper that's about to take a shot at another building somewhere.
Mm-hmm. It is very cool.
I would love to know where that, because that's very clearly a mini. I'd love to know,
Yes.
because they don't show the actual mini. I would love to know where it's from. I am guessing it would be an Infinity Mini, just knowing the company. Oh, no, they do show it. Yeah, it's an Infinity Mini. It's in the second image.
Oh, yep. There it is.
Like, this stuff is like, it's really, really nice. This is mostly MDF, apart from these see-through sections. Now, when it comes to like see-through windows and stuff, like, it is something that you can usually buy as an add-on sometimes. I know Green Stuff will sell windows that you can add to the inside of buildings and so forth. But actually having it incorporated into the building itself is something that you don't see very often.
Mm-hmm. So one of the bullets of the first part of the features, it says building features fade-light translucent frosted plastic sheet. So it is a plastic sheet.
Yep.
Of
Yeah,
some
so
sort.
it's plastic art of some kind then, yeah. Oh,
Yep.
yeah, there it is, yep.
Which is, I mean, it's amazing, even with it not lit up. I mean, you could definitely
Yeah.
see the girders through the windows on some of those pictures, and so it looks very, very cool.
Yep.
Even when it's not lit up.
The Trapper Biotech bundle, which is, well, it's $430. That's Australian, though, so it's cheaper for you.
Yeah.
But that
$297
is,
for us.
that's easily,
That's a lot of.
like, that's a full table of terrain, very easily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Infinity is notoriously something that needs a lot of terrain. Like, this is a terrain in a box. Sorry, this is a table in a box. And like, they actually show an image here of the full table set up. It's a really nice looking table, and very, very different from what I'm usually seeing.
Yeah, and the roofs are able to come off, so you can move guys inside the buildings as well. So it is kind of nice. You can still use the inside of the buildings, because Infinity, you kind of want the inside of the building sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
So the thing I find frustrating sometimes with a lot of sci-fi stuff is a lot of sci-fi terrain, like, you don't really see how, like, it's sci-fi for the sake of being sci-fi, as opposed to this kind of feels like it's a sci-fi version of what we see today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in franchises like Judge Dredd, for example, it's an exaggeration of what we see today. RoboCop as well. It's an exaggeration of the world that we live in today. I like seeing those sort of elements in my sci-fi where you can kind of understand how we've gotten there.
Yeah.
Brutal Cities. Yeah.
Scroll down below the full map setup. It shows a bunch of the buildings being able to fit inside of them for easy storage solution.
Oh,
which I think is awesome.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It is absolutely insane, because, like we talked about with Train Tutor, you're moving around, you're trying to take this to the store, stack this inside of each other, and you're going to need maybe, what, 1.5 by 2.5, 1.5 by 1.5 foot square box, and you can fit all this terrain inside of it.
Yeah.
Not much bigger than this average size shoebox, I would say.
No, that's brilliant. I hadn't even noticed that, and it fits together really, really nicely.
Yeah, I just noticed that as I was scrolling down.
Yeah. Everything else that we see down on this page is like stuff that was inside of the bundle. With the exception of, I don't think the plaza is in the bundle. No, the plaza's separate by the look of it. Which is basically a giant building like what the original one that we saw was.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just the one. Obviously, if you want to build a giant one, this is kind of a module that gets added to the other kits.
Yep.
It's really, really nice. You will actually see in the description there is a link to the original Brutopolis Plaza, which shows you the original giant building that we were looking at. So this is an addition that you can add to that so that one of those floors has those see-through elements. There's also an objective room that you can add as well. So this is another one of this is the original kit that made me go, oh my lord, we need to talk about this company.
Mm-hmm.
It's just absolutely insane.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Brutopolis Plaza modules, is that the one? No. It's being annoying. I want to look at all-terrain kits. And Brutopolis Plaza Tower Bundle is $185. So that's what you're adding those extra modules onto. Like I said, it's just absolutely insane. Like it's 65 centimeters tall. How many inches is that? It is so 25.5 inches. It's just over 2 feet tall. That's just the standard building before you're adding the modules into it.
It's good size height.
Oh, it's insane, yeah. This is why when we were originally talking about it, we were like, you could play Dropzone in this.
Mm-hmm.
It is 28. It's 11 inches square. So it's not quite a full table, but you could very easily play a game inside of this. Especially something small.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Time to move on.
Multiple floors.
Yeah.
Speaking of Drop Fleet or Drop Squad.
Yeah, speaking of Drop Squad, we're going to speak about... No, actually, no, stuff. I'm going to kind of change it around. I'm going to talk about Drop Squad first.
We're talking about TT Combat anyways.
Yeah, I know. But we got shown off. We got shown off another Drop Squad mini this week.
We did.
And it's not one that we expected. It was the Pungari we got next. This really caught me by surprise. But those of you that are looking on the screen will notice there's a giant red arrow pointed at something in the background, which is very clearly supposed to be a Shaltari mini outside of their warsuit. Now,
Space Hedgehog.
It's a Space Hedgehog, yeah. Now, Socks and I was talking off camera about this earlier because I'm not... I can't... It certainly looks like it's supposed to be a miniature, but I don't know if that is actually a miniature. I think that might be artwork in the background. It's very difficult to see because it could be a trick of the camera, because obviously blurring in the background is the thing. But it could... So it either could be a mini that hasn't been previewed yet. For the record, Michelle did ask TT Combat, because he, like I, have connections in the company that we can talk to. And the answer they got was the zip face emoji, basically. So Louis not talking.
No one is talking right now.
No, nobody's talking right now. That is the exact same reaction that we get now whenever we ask about Drop Squad, just for the record, which, for me, makes me think it probably is what we think it is.
A mini.
It is a mini. Because if it was just artwork, I'm pretty sure they would just say that it's just artwork. The fact that, like, and you raised this, I hadn't even thought about it at the time. Like, they don't appear outside of their warsuits in Drop Squad. So my assumption is that this in-game will end up being a support command character. Someone that's not supposed to be in the front line. He's in the background ordering people what to do.
Ordering his Pungari slaves what to do. Because that Pungari looks awesome.
Oh, I love the Pungari. Yes, we should actually talk about what we're supposed to be talking about. The Pungari is amazing. They've done really, really well with this mini. I mean, it's very clearly supposed to be a grey, or at least their version of a grey.
Mm-hmm.
I love the flat head. I love
flat head, the little...
It's almost hammerhead in like, it's kind of...
Yeah.
It's fish-like in some ways. It also has really weird flared shoulders. Like, it's almost fungusy.
Yeah.
In the way that it looks. Or at least that's how it reads to me.
I mean, because his legs, you can't even see clearly defined like leg bone structure. I mean, it almost looks like a mass of goop just hanging off of his legs and his thighs. Even though you can,
rather than having,
even though you can tell their legs.
Yeah, rather than having feet, it looks like they more have stumps that they're walking on. So it's very, very alien, which is good because why does everything have to look humanoid?
Yeah.
But
since we still have no idea where the Shaltari come from still in the storyline.
No, that is true.
Or where they picked up these Pungari creatures.
Well, we know that they were playing around with them before they started manipulating us, so...
Yes, that is true. Anyways.
Because the Shaltari are not the heroes of this story. They are very much another one of the villains. Anyway, moving back. We've had quite a few new things come out this weekend. I want to start with Gluteus Minimus. So, I think for most people, reading Gluteus Minimus to begin with was, so he's going to have a big bum because that's the joke. No. This guy is gluten-free. Like, this is somebody that's fighting against gluten. He's literally standing on top of gluten. This is the silliest thing I have ever seen, and I have all the time in the world for it. It's just so stupid. I love this so much.
Yeah.
He does also have a little bit of a flat bum, but...
Yeah, he does. But it is a pretty cool mini.
I also love the fact that the advertisement for this is literally full of puns. Need I say more?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. So, basically, this is a Black Friday... This is a Black Friday mini that they've released. It's a limited edition thing. It's one of two. I'm going to have a look at the other one in a second. If you're buying stuff over Black Friday weekend, if you spend over £75 until Monday the 5th of December, then they will throw in one of these two minis for free. I did this last year, and I spent over the £150 to receive both. I don't know if I ever actually unboxed them. I do have them. I should probably do that. So, the first one that we got is Gluteus Minimus. Louis, I want rules for this guy in Rumble Slam, please. I mean, I know he has a sword, and swords don't belong in Rumble Slam, but this guy is silly. Put him in Rumble Slam. It just makes sense. I like the fact that, like, he's got options. It's not just the big gluten lump. There's actually options for a rock as well if you want him to fit into a more traditional game. So it's more than just a silly miniature. But the other one that we got was Cyber Mickey. So Cyber Mickey Squire belongs with the halflings that they do. In a dark, unjust world, half a man can make a difference. What can I say? It's a
robotic dog.
It's a rock and roll halfling riding a robotic dog. It's really stupid, and I have all the time in the world for it. It's amazing. I like it when not everything has to be serious.
Mm-hmm.
These things are fun. I like these things. I like the dog too. I mean, it's their own take on it. I mean, it reminds me of K9 a little bit. I don't know if you were ever a Doctor Who person.
Not much.
But it's more rounded and more... Yeah, I mean, it's very sci-fi, which is hilarious given that this is very clearly going to be added to a fantasy army. But it's just fun. And things are allowed to be fun. We've also had some Carnivale stuff revealed, which is nice. A lot of stuff coming out. The Pyro, I want to say, is the first ones, which are really creepy looking. Like, these guys are insanely creepy. Everybody forgets about the Pyro, the Commedia Yes, whatever that word is. They blend into the crowd. They are your everyman. They are seemingly everywhere. With the same blank expressions on their face. It's his face, right?
Yeah.
So they are that generic that you forget
And
that
all
they're
three are
there.
the
Which,
same.
yeah. It's that you forget about them the moment you look away type idea, which is just terrifying. I really, really like this. I don't know if this is inspired by something specific. I like the fact that the pictures are showing them in shadow.
Mm-hmm.
For the same force, we also get the artist Maria Fioriatura and the painted protectors. So it appears that she's painted these guys into existence by the look of it.
Or painted the suits of armor themselves. I don't know. They do look pretty cool though. It looks like they could have just been regular suits of armor that she just threw some paint on it.
Yeah.
But who knows? But they look cool.
She's one of the gifted. The gifted kind of have superpowers. That's very much what they are. They are incredibly tough knights. They're water soluble. So no, she's painted these into existence. Because if they're water soluble, they have to be made of the paint.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
So basically, she's summoning things with her paint, is what she's doing. Again, I really like this idea. I like the thing with the Rift. For those of you that don't know, Carnivale is based in Venice, and the idea is that there's this rift in space and time that's opened over the city, and it's kind of just gone and made magic really nuts. So it's kind of like it's given the freedom that you can kind of do almost anything with it to some extent. So that you've got like these Cthulhu-esque type monsters. You've got these fanciful things like we were just looking at. There is very much vampire type stuff, Strigoi. So they actually use the traditional name for the area. So it gives them a lot of freedom to have a lot of fun with it, which I like the fact that they're doing that. The last thing, at least for today, from TT Combat, from this particular section anyway, is the execution and the crucifiers, which are just they just badass looking minis. The executioner is obviously your traditional. He's wearing the hood. He's got the big axe. The crucifiers are. It looks like, by the look of it, at least one of them is definitely going after vampires. Because that's definitely a stake in his hand and a hammer to drive it through the chest.
And the other one has 3 holding it next to his chest.
Yeah. So these are from... what's the center of the church called? Where the Pope and everything is.
The Vatican?
Vatican, thank you. Yeah, these are from the Vatican. So very much drawing on traditional law there. Although Crucifies is an interesting name, but it's probably easier. It's probably easier than Slayer, which can kind of mean anything, really.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to be drawing from Vatican, Crucifier kind of makes sense. Yeah, I really like this stuff. It's really, really pretty. I think my favorite, at least from that particular page, is actually the Pyro or Period. I want to say Pyro because it looks French to me.
Yeah, that was what I was guessing too.
Yeah. I really do like Gluteus Minimus, but I think the Pyro is the winner for me. Do you have any preferences there?
I kind of like the artist one.
Yep. Why is it not the Pungari? Because the Pungari belongs by himself, because he is glorious, and because he belongs in a game that we named. Whether we will ever... Not that we will ever get credit for that, but we named
We'll
that
never
game.
get credit for that.
For the record,
questions.
we do not want credit for it either.
No, we don't. But we asked about that 5 years ago at Gen Con.
Yep. All right. Moving into the terrain side of things, because it's Black Friday weekend, that means that we're getting new white box specials. So these are different from the ones last year. We get some previews of stuff that is upcoming. I'm just going to very quickly open all of this. There's kind of like a little bit of everything.
I got some good sets here.
Yeah. So the first one is the Fondamenta della Grazia, which is very much your Streets of Venice box. There's one every year. So you're getting some nice modular buildings there, as well as some bridges and some roadways. You do get a boat, which is, I don't know which boat it is actually. I think that's a new boat. I could be. Oh no, it's the Doctor's paddle boat. I stand corrected. It does say down below.
You're right.
So because Venice is very much over the water, the terrain tends to lean into that as well. Hence why you get your bridges and your roadways and your platforms and everything for it to go onto. It all works really, really nicely. As well as, I really like the floating terrain. That's really cool. The barrels that are very clearly floating are in the water and stuff, so you've got stuff that you can jump over. We also have a residential ruins white box. So this is very much for your historical gamers.
Mm-hmm.
This is all, I believe this is 28mm as well. Yep, 25 to 28mm. This is designed to fit a 3x3 board. It's all ruins of regular English-looking, well, not English, European-looking buildings. To fit into
bolt action.
Pretty much anything. Yeah, bolt action is the first thing that comes to mind.
You can get a gate guard and the gatehouse, the little gate swing arm.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be for World War. I mean, if you have a setting where it makes sense that things are in ruin,
go for it.
Yeah. Hell, I mean, you could use this in 40K, and it's just not Gothic for a change. Oh, what a shame. I mean, not everything has to be sci-fi Gothic. Castle Bailey is another one. This is very much fantasy. So you've got some very fantasy-looking buildings in this. I really like the wall sections. This is, again, a 3x3, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
In this particular set, I think the tower is my favorite, just because it's a really, really pretty-looking tower.
It does look nice.
Only thing I will say about these particular advertisements this year, last year they actually showed off what they would look like on a 3x3 table. I'm kind of disappointed that they're only showing the pieces this year.
Just parts of it, yeah.
Yeah, because that was a big selling, like it made it a lot easier to actually see what you were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And here we go, very much for your 40K guys. We have our rigging station white box. It's very industrial hive. This is kind of similar to a lot of sets that we've seen over the years. Even from TT Combat itself. I don't mean that in a negative sense. Like, it's just industrial hive type things is something that we've seen a lot of. This is a really pretty looking one. I really do like this. This is a very complicated build, though, by the look of it. Most the big section is anyway. The Cloudbuster. We also have a clandestine research depot, which is for Dropzone. Dropzone or whatever the Titan game is from Games Workshop, the one that nobody seems to play. Because this is your 10mm type.
10mm, yep.
Yeah. So anything that's in that scale, sci-fi works well with this. These are gorgeous. I love the missile silos as much as they are very simple. I do like them. I believe, hang on, they've got alternate clips there, which I don't quite get what those clips are for. Maybe they're supposed to make it look like it's holding the roof down? Because with the missile silos, they're showing these clips on the outside without actually showing you what they're for. I would argue that that's a mistake. I mean, I'm sure the instructions would tell you, but you really should be showing what they are. I can't even see what they are.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
So that's I'm going to say that's an oversight. That hasn't been thought through, that advertisement, at all. Like, you can't hit everything out of the park. This is probably the weaker of the boxes, I think. The Dropzone one from last year was certainly more interesting than that. City Streets, again, like anything modern day. If you want to play a modern military game, you want to play anything superhero related, pretty much, which is very what they're leaning into with the Joker mini there.
Yep.
I really like this. That's a really cool looking fountain too. The pool we've seen before. I've been tempted to buy this pool several times. I haven't, but I have been very tempted to, because it's really simple, but it's a good, really simple. If that makes sense. Yeah, I really like that. Last couple, we've got another sci-fi gothic. This is very much your traditional 40k type setting. It's a Covenant type theme this time. It's all ruins. It's all gothic. It all kind of fits in there. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be for 40k, but that's very clearly what they're aiming for. Definitely a nice strong one. Stack City is very much an Infinity type feel, and I really like the look of this one actually. There is a couple of elements that have acrylic leaned into them, which helps with the sci-fi look. I'd be kind of painting this up to be very bright and colourful if it was me. I like the slum stacks. Like, it's very much an idea that comes from, like I was saying earlier about, I like when sci-fi leans from things that we see in real life today. Like, we see container houses that are built and so forth today. It kind of makes sense, especially in a sci-fi world, that, hey, maybe that's the way that we go. And then, last but not least, we have a Wild West table. I think this is equally as good as the ones that we had last year.
Yeah, I agree. These ones look pretty nice. That French Quarter row house, looks pretty nice.
The only downside I will say is that I really wish they had have advertised these with pictures of what they looked like set up as a table, because that really would have made this. Do you have a preference as far as, like, do you have a favourite out of those?
Probably the Wild West one, the French Quarter white box.
The French Quarter is really, really nice. That's definitely one of the ones that I really like. I think I'm probably leaning towards the Venice one, personally.
The first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one looks pretty nice too with those barrels, like you said.
It's between the two of them. Weakest for me is definitely the Dropzone one. It just doesn't thought very well.
No.
It kind of feels like it's been slapped together. And yeah, I don't know. It just feels like it's been thrown together in hopes that it works. And I just don't think, look, not everything can hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the terrain is there. I mean, it's 10 mil terrain. It's probably the hardest to do because it's all so tiny. But it just, I don't know, the box itself doesn't really, it kind of just feels like pieces that have been thrown together. They don't really, there's nothing that really screams that this all belongs together. To me, at least, anyway. But that's enough of that. I think it's time to move on to a Kickstarter. So, Mantic. Mantic are a company that have been around for a while. They are one of these companies that use Kickstarter quite a lot. They're probably not as bad as some others, but they're definitely up there. But of all of the projects that have gone to Kickstarter lately from a big company, I think this is one that definitely deserves to be there. Because this is literally something that nobody else is doing. So, it's a terrain crate of trees. And if you haven't seen this already, your first thought of that is going to be, okay, why does this belong on Kickstarter? That seems like you're full of it. Okay. Ronnie, the owner of Mantic, is looking around. Trees are kind of something that's on every table. In fantasy and so forth, it's easy. You just use normal trees. But he's looking at all of the sci-fi games, including their own, and everybody still uses the same trees, which doesn't really make sense. Why are all trees across the universe the same? Nobody is making anything at all that fills that gap.
Yeah.
And so he's gone, and until he started putting things together, even his own team didn't understand why this was important. Like they all thought that he was kind of going in the wrong direction with this one. But I think he really has hit this out of the park. This is absolutely insane. Like, this is really good. So we've very much got these mushroom trees. Everything is modular as well, so you can change the height of things and add things to kind of get different feels for everything. You get a couple of images here of just like what you can put together and how it can work, and like these don't belong on our planet. They are very, very alien. Of all of the terrain, like, to some extent, after looking at terrain for a while, everything starts to feel like it's all the same. Like, even when somebody, and we'll touch on another one that's like that I really like, and is groundbreaking in some ways, but to some extent, it's still building the same buildings that everybody else does. This is a piece of terrain. This is an idea for terrain that's genuinely something nobody's making right now. This is something that, in all honesty, I think belongs on every sci-fi table. Well, at least something that's not Earth-based anyway.
Yeah. I know for us, the Star Wars Legion community, people use aquarium plants.
Yep.
That you put in a fish aquarium or something like that as our sci-fi type plants to make them not just look like normal trees that we use on a daily basis in most other games like you're talking about. So yeah, seeing this new option of these little giant mushroom trees or this little bulbous flower that he's got here does look pretty cool. And the fact that you modularize these, you could use them in whatever way you want. Really.
Yeah, very, very much so. There is a part of this that is ruins and buildings as well. And yes, they are your regular ruins and buildings as well, but they're trying to expand it. They all come with like actual pieces for the floors as well to help make them feel like a real building, so that you actually can see where the dimensions of the ruins begins and end as well. The other thing I would say, and I know this is very much being advertised as this is for sci-fi games, but I also look at this and go, hey, this works really well for prehistoric. Like if you were gaming in something with dinosaurs and stuff, this would work really well. Because I suspect that's partially what inspired it to some extent. Because we do know that like early life, before we were around, like yes, there were trees, but before then it was all fungus. So it would all be very, very different. I think Mantic are onto something significant here. This has only started recently. It's at £63,000 at the moment. I suspect that this is probably going to at least double from that. Like, terrain doesn't sell like games does, and there are going to be people that will look at this and go, yeah, but I've got trees. And that's fine, but I think this is really good. I have not backed this. I'm really tempted to, but I just don't have the funds right now. They are definitely onto something with this one. I genuinely think people should be looking at this a lot more seriously than they are. Especially if you're a club and stuff, because the terrain crate boxes work really well for those. Because they all pack down nice and neatly too. Moving on.
Speaking of dinosaurs.
I know, right?
That has them.
I wonder if that's what inspired me to make that comment.
I wonder.
So,
Conquest.
Conquest is a company that we, Parabellum is a company that we look at quite regularly. We did a whole series on the Woodrun beginning of this year and late last year. We have a QR code on the screen for those that are maybe wanting to expand their army, or maybe they want to buy into the game for the first time. If you use the code Getting Tabled, you'll get 10% off your order. And you'll help support us as well without actually costing yourself any money. Anyway, they are releasing character bundles for each army. So these are slightly cheaper ways of buying your characters for each faction. So the 100 Kingdoms, you are getting... So each of these is 3 character bundles, or officers rather. You get... In the 100 Kingdom, you get the Theist Priest, the Chapter Mage, and the Null Mage. The Theist Priest being the one in red, that's probably my favourite of the 3, just personally. Because they're just very pretty. These are the same models that you will have gotten separately if you had released, but it's a bundle so that you can buy them a little bit cheaper, which is nice. They're all resin. In the Spires, you get the Mimetic Assassin, the Biomancer, and the Wild Preceptor. Personally, I think the Biomancer is my favourite, personally. They're all kind of cool, though. This is very much your villains of the piece, just for the record. They are very much the villains. Ironically, this is elves. Or at least their take on elves, anyway. They kind of play around with they play around with life and decide that they want to play gods and create things to be slaves for them. Yeah. Just really, really twisted. The Dweghom, which is their take on dwarves, we get the Tempered Steel Shaper, the Ardent, Karawa, and the Herdant of Stone. I like all 3 of these. I think the Herald of Stone is my favourite, personally. In the Nords, which is pretty much what you think they're going to be with a name like Nords, you get a Captain, you get a Conogire, and a Shaman. I like all 3 of these. Captain, maybe a little bit more. Nothing really screams that it's the best of all 3 of them. For the Wadrun, you get the Matriarch Queen, the Aberration, and the Scion of Conquest. I still like the Queen. The Queen is one of my favourite minis in the entire... Well, character minis in the entire game, and has been since I started looking at it. I have painted mine up. I think I showed it off last episode.
Yeah.
It only took me 12 months. And then finally for the Old Dominion, which is the most recent of the armies, which is your undead faction, we have the Optio, the Hydroricon, and the Profane Reliquary. I don't know if I really have a favourite here. Maybe the Profane Reliquary? I don't know. The thing with Conquest is all of their minis look really nice, so it's kind of hard to pick favourites sometimes. So if I'm not really having a favourite, I don't necessarily mean this in a negative sense. So these are bundles that they are offering just for the week, just as a cheaper way to buy in for those that haven't bought. Maybe they want to expand on their starter sets, or maybe they're buying in for the first time. It's a cheaper way of buying in and getting the characters that you need for the game.
Yeah.
It's probably also worth noting because there is another new mini, which is a Christmas-themed one. I'm just trying to find it. No, apparently I'm not going to find it. Oh, no, there it is. There's a Spire's Abomination. There is a Christmas version of it, which is just the stupidest thing I've seen in a long time, because it makes absolutely no sense in the world that it belongs in. It's a giant monster that has a Christmas hat, and it has a candy cane for a weapon instead of what it did have. Funny. It's really, really stupid, and I mean this in the most positive way I ever possibly could. It's just holiday themed. It's not just Christmas, because there's a couple of Hanukkah things in there as well by the look of it. The ball that it's holding is... Oh, I guess it could be a Christmas Christmas tree ornament. It's just really, really stupid. And I mean this in the most positive sense I can. It's a limited edition mini. You do get a picture of what the regular one looks like, which is just hands. This is just the same thing, but the hands are holding a giant candy cane for a weapon and a giant Christmas bauble for a weapon, and it has Christmas-themed armor. It's really dumb, and I love it.
And a little snowman in between his legs.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I forgot about the snowman. It's just really, really stupid, and I have all the time in the world for it. So in that, you get the Spire's Abomination, a new promo command card, new rules on how to fight the Abomination in First Blood, which is the skirmish version of the game, and STL files to make your own abominable abomination. So basically, the additions to this are STL files that you add to the regular kit. So you can either build the regular one, or you can build the Christmas one. Or, just by thought, you do both. And you just magnetize the bits that need to be magnetized. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Like I said, this is just, it's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But wargaming is really stupid. All right, I'll get the QR code off screen. We will move on to the other terrain kit that I wanted to look at. So, earlier this week, I posted a news article talking about how this was coming up and how people should be looking at it. I was working with these guys to do a preview video, which unfortunately will not happen. It has nothing to do with these guys. It's because of the technology that I have. My printer died, which is really frustrating. It died halfway through this, and the stuff that I had printed snapped while I was trying to undo it. So I was unable to. No. So they took it really well. I didn't tell them that my printer had died because it wasn't really relevant. It was just like at that point, it was the video wasn't going to get done before. Well, the video wasn't going to get done before the Kickstarter was over, because at that point I'm either buying a new one or I have to share the files that were shared with me, because they shared files with me as a preview, so that I could print some and do a video of it, which was really, really wonderful, and they looked really, really nice. So, like I said earlier, like at first glance, this stuff is like it's just the same sort of terrain that everybody makes. What's so exciting about this? So this is a terrain kit that's designed to break down and flat pack. Rather than being all magnetized, which is usually how people answer this, or being like a foldable piece of card or something, this is something that's designed to be printed on an FDM printer. Don't print this in resin. I tested it. Like, it's really hard to print in resin. It's not designed for resin printers at all. It's designed specifically for FDM. I was trying it on a resin printer because it's what I owned. I did manage to get it to work, but once you put it together, you can't get it back apart without it snapping. I was surprised that it went together to begin with, quite frankly. I was expecting that it was going to snap when I put it together. So again, like, this isn't the fault of the product. It's not designed for resin. It's designed for FDM, which is your regular type of plastic printer. Mm-hmm. But this is designed, it all slides together and it just clips. Like, if you play the video, you'll actually see how it works.
Yeah. That's like pretty cool.
Yeah. So this is modular terrain is something that has been done before, but the answer to it is always the same. It's always magnets. It's always that, or it just kind of sits on one another, or they're all boxes and the boxes just sit together. This is a completely different way of doing it. It works insanely well. And quite frankly, it's also really pretty.
Yeah.
The core set comes with like quite a few different things. Like they show you examples of how to build it, but realistically, you can swap and change the parts around any way that you want. Never mind the fact that you've also got all of the unlocks and obviously different ways that you can paint them and so forth. Stretch Goals is going absolutely ballistic right now. Like they are doing really, really well. So this is by a company called Digital Taxidermy. They have been around for a while. They do a few different things. They do have a decent reputation. So if you want to have a look at it, I would recommend it. There will be a link in the description. Just a look at some of the other things that they have done in the past. They've done a few different things over their time. Moonstone. I like Moonstone. Have I mentioned Moonstone before?
No.
It's possibly I might like Moonstone a little bit.
I don't think you have.
No, definitely not. This is a game we first touched on as a news article a couple of years ago. I did kind of return to it as an aiming for the indie at some point. So we've got a couple of new releases coming. First and foremost, we finally have Eric the Enlightened. We have known this was coming for a while. The most recent campaign that was being done was to decide where he actually ended up joining. So he's actually joined... now, hang on. I've got to remember what these guys are called. I forget what they're called.
Don't ask me.
Anyway, he's joined the Moosehead guys. And he's riding a giant elk. It's amazing. So for those that don't know, Eric is originally in the starter set as a squire for one of the for literally Mr. Fancy Hat. And he's now part of the Lish Vault, which I'm definitely saying wrong. But yeah. So yeah, he's finally went, no, stuff it. I'm tired of being the squire, and he's become a hero in his own right. Yeah. So he's gone from the pathetic little useless man, Eric the Squire, and he is now genuinely a hero in his own right. I think personally, this might be my favorite mini of the game at this point. I do like it that much. We also get a new box set for the gnomes. So this comes with Liv, which, despite being gnomish, looks very goblinish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's obviously supposed to be a hag of some kind. We've also got Bjorn. Bjorn is a member of the gaming group that I play with. It's quite nice that he actually has a mini of his own. Like literally, we have a Bjorn in our group, and he's a big man.
That's funny. He's
a very tall man. It kind of makes sense that he has an axe. It's nice that he has his own mini. Bjorn, you no longer have an excuse. You have to buy into this game now. They've even created a mini for you. Like, you have no excuse. You have to buy. And Olam, which is I really like Olam. He's a kid going around with a dog, riding on top of the dog with what look like health potions. I think they're meant to be health potions in the back.
In the cart.
Yeah. And Noel the Troll. Because let's make names that are difficult to say, I suppose. I think this might be the giant monster that I buy, because he does work with my guys. He feels like he belongs with fairies. I really, really like this guy. He's really, really fun. So he works with the Lush Vault and with the Dominion. I really like the way this works. Tough as old boots. Any preferences among those three? For me, it's easily Eric, but I don't know if you have any.
I was going to say Eric.
Yeah.
As well.
How could you not like Eric?
He's even got his shield has a face carved on it. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. There was different versions of this character that we could have gotten depending on which way the the tournament. Not the tournament. The campaign went, and ultimately it was the Lichvolt that won out. So this is the way that it went, and we had like different previews of how it was going to. Like we didn't actually see the mini until this was revealed, but we had known that this was the result in the end. I love everything to do with this. I'm not buying Lichvolt, but I kind of really want this mini. All right, kind of a little bit of a different topic. I'm only going to browse over this very, 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 very briefly. If you join the Bushido Facebook group, so Bushido the Game Facebook group, you will find a post from Jason Enos, which is one of the staff members. It's Master Enos from GCT Studios, where he has shared a rules update of what will eventually become, once it's finalized, the balancing for the game for next year. This is being released in January. So this is all still being worked on. This is not finalized. They have shared this trying to get some opinions from the community. I have had a read through. I like what I see so far. Ishii gains Assassin, which is nice. So yeah, I really like what I'm seeing so far. It is a 27-page document. It's not all a wall of text because everything's kind of divided up. Not everything has as much balance required as others. Like Ryu only have a couple of things. Ito only have a couple of things. Not everything is not everything needs lots and lots of stuff. Tuning appears to be changing entirely. So, the big one, and I'm touching on Tuning especially because this is one of the characters that we previewed. We are losing the unique effect, which used to be the first time you use summon from your shadow feat each turn, do not mark the box. This will allow you to use it twice. Instead, we add Call the Horde key feat, which you need to be active. It's a special. It costs 6 key, and it summons and deploys a Horde Bakemono anywhere within 2 inches of this model. So rather than giving you the option to summon twice, he just summons himself. So it doesn't really change much. It just kind of changes the way that he works. Yeah, that's should be fine. I don't really have any huge issues with anything that I see here. Like I said, this is still a working document. It's not finalized yet, but if you are playing or getting into Bushido, I would recommend that you have a browse because this may affect decisions that you make as far as purchases is concerned. Elden Ring is going gangbusters on Kickstarter right now.
Yeah,
So-
I'm looking at the money, and the money was just kept on scrolling. And
So, a couple of things about this. First and foremost, Elden Ring was the most followed Kickstarter before it launched in Kickstarter history. It did also break a record, but I don't remember which record it was. I think it was one of the fastest ever ones, but I don't remember what level. It's just gone absolute gangbusters. So it's sitting over at £2 million right now. This is by Steamforged Games, so it's by a company that has a decent reputation. A company that has been on Kickstarter a few times. They're not really someone that exploits it too badly. Being worked on by Ewan Moore, Alex Radcliffe, and Matt Jarvis. I'm not familiar with Matt Jarvis. I will say this. The minis look absolutely gorgeous.
yeah, the minis are pretty cool.
Yeah, for those of you that are not aware, Elden Ring is a video game that launched earlier this year. It's very much a Souls-like. So it's one of those games where it's just designed to punish you and make you feel miserable. I bought this on release, and I spent 2 weeks being miserable trying to play the video game. I'm not someone that had ever played those games, so I didn't have the skills for it. I kept on trying to stick with it because I was trying to be stubborn. I was like, no, I'm going to do this, and it was popular on YouTube. But in the end, it didn't really get me any followers that I wouldn't have had anyway. And honestly, I was not enjoying my experience. Now, obviously, the video game and the board game are going to be two very different things, but this is designed to be very difficult. You are going to be fighting a very difficult game here. It is designed that way on purpose, so if you want to have a real challenge, then this is something, especially if you've got a gaming group that kind of get tired of things being easy, or just want something that's a little bit different, this is something that you can easily go into and something I would recommend. Plus, these minis are gorgeous.
Yeah, I was looking down at the Kickstarter exclusive one, and that dragon they have looks amazing.
I haven't gotten to the dragon yet, I don't think. Scrolling. Ooh, I like the samurai. The samurai's cool.
Yeah.
I'm eventually going to come... Oh, here we go. The Fanged Imps. These things were the bane of my existence for 2 weeks. These things are horrible. Avoid them. They're horrible, and I hate them. I hate them all. They are the reason I quit. Quite literally. That's as far as I got. Oh, I've either gone past the dragon and not realised.
If you scrolled past the big cauldron, you've gone too far, because it was just below the cauldron.
Ah, okay. I definitely gone too far then. So the cauldron is the free mini that comes as part of the Kickstarter.
Just below the cauldron.
Oh!
Those are Kickstarter exclusive.
The thing next to it.
expansions.
The thing next to it's really good too.
Yeah, it is. But the way they pose that dragon just looks amazing.
Yeah. I like the fact that it's feathered as well. Just because it's something that everything's always scaled and stuff with dragons. I like having a different take on it. I will also say this, like, as far as like entry level, $89, that's
not bad.
That's pretty good. I mean, obviously, yes, they want you to buy more, but as far as just a standard board game is concerned, that's really affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Core pledge is £152, which comes with the core box plus the Alexandra box. That's one of the exclusive ones, and then all of the the unlocks and so forth. So yeah, like I said, it's going gangbusters right now. Anybody that's familiar with the Souls games isn't really going to be surprised by this. Like it is one of those franchises that's just extremely popular. I'm not surprised that this is doing really well. It's really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming from someone that... I just want to state this again. I hated my experience with Elden Ring. I hated my experience with Elden Ring. Has nothing to do with the game. It's because I had never played those, and I'm just not the sort of person that the game is built for. And having something that like you just die and 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 die, and then I kill something, and now I die and die. Like that just got grating for me. But that doesn't change the fact that I think this looks amazing. Also, the game itself was very pretty.
Go to the core pledge and keep scrolling all the way down to the bottom until you see, near the past the core stage, you're going to see the gnolls, the chiefs, the trolls, and stuff like that. Then you get to the tree sentinel. That guy looks amazing as well. The
tree sentinel is in the opening of the game. He's in the second area that you go to after you get killed the first time. And like, you know how certain games, like, there'll be this thing where it's just like, come at me, make the mistake of coming at me. Like, this thing is going around the opening area, and it's just way too big for you to ever have a chance of taking on. So you have to avoid it. If you keep on going down, the very next one is the Erd Tree Burial Watchdog.
Yeah.
This is where I got up to in the game. This is the thing that I was trying to defeat. I got really close several times, and it just made me hate the game more because I was so close and I just never got there. There was clearly something I was missing, but I got so close so many times.
Yeah.
I hate this game. It's a stupid game.
The minis look awesome for this game.
Yeah, they do.
Don't know if I'll get into it because I've got too many other things. And
You've
I've
got too
Kickstarter
many
I'm
other
waiting-
things.
Well, I'm waiting for Company Heroes Pledge Manager here in a couple of months. So I've got the second Company Heroes game that I'm already waiting for.
Yeah.
For the Pledge Manager to open up. So yeah, I'll be holding off on stuff on Kickstarter at least for a while.
Yeah.
But-
No, that makes sense. I am going to skip our next story, and I'm going to go directly into the Games Workshop stuff.
All right.
Mainly because I see how long things are going, and I think it probably is worth it. So, there's two big stories out of Games Workshop. Yes, we're going to touch on the other one, but I'm coming there last. Previews this weekend. We got to look at a brand new demon, which is very, very different and weird looking. So this guy apparently is like this is not a demon prince. This is actually a legit demon. So he's not being corrupted and become a demon. Like this is all he ever was. And he's like a forge. He like forges weapons and stuff and like in the warp. He's really weird looking. I keep on changing my mind as to whether I like the design of this guy or not. I mean, obviously it's supposed to be really weird looking. I don't know. I kind of feel like there's something missing on this. I really like the wings, like the bladed wings. They are cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love the giant hammer. The giant hammer is really cool. The head I think it's the head for me.
I have to agree. His head looks kind of...
He looks like he's supposed to have his hands like this.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not the first person to say that he has a surprise face. I know that. Yeah. The artwork, I think the head looks better in the artwork than it does on the mini itself.
Absolutely.
It's possible, because it's not the first time this has happened, it's possible it's just the paint job. Sometimes Games Workshop paint jobs make things look worse than they are. I suspect that if this was painted up to look darker, like that artwork is, I suspect it would look better.
Instead of the
if you
pinkish...
had darker skin with the glowing coming out of those orifices, I think it would look more threatening than it does.
Yeah, the lot of light pink, fuchsia, almost paint on his skin. Yeah, I don't think it works. I think you're right. It probably is the paint job.
I mean, that skin painting does get used for demons quite a lot, and there is a reason for it because it does look really creepy. But for this particular character, I think they needed to do something else, and I think what that was is that they needed to lean into what that artwork was. Personally.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. So, I want to start by pointing out what I did initially. And if people want to disagree with me in the comments, they're more than welcome to, because I know the people already have. This particular image came out on, I want to say, was it Wednesday? Thursday. It was around there at some point. One of our contributors, Ben, actually shared it with us. And my automatic reaction was that this is fake. Now, I want to point out that this image in and of itself either is fake or somebody's made a very big mistake when they sent this. Because Games Workshop is literally the most corporate gaming entity out there. And there is absolutely no way that they are sending emails with things scented like that. However, so either somebody has made a mistake, which is a possibility, before they sent this to their retail customers. And for the record, this was sent to shops, not to customers themselves. Or, and this is where I don't know for a fact, but I suspect what's happened is that whoever shared this image to begin with created this image, because make no mistake, this is not a screenshot of an email. This is a recreation of an email. And I think they've done it that way on purpose to try to avoid, because if it's their own image, they can't be had to go at for copying and
copyright
sharing private information and that sort of things. So we are talking about an email that was sent to third-party stores. This is specifically third-party stores. And it reads, for the people that are listening only, Dear customer, we are writing to you in order to give notice of an approximate 5.8% increase in Games Workshop trade prices on selected products, including all plastic box sets and paints. This will take effect on the 19th of December. Please note that this increase will not have any impact on the recommended retail prices of our products. Kind regards, Games Workshop Trade Team. Now, first and foremost, it's a completely wrong time of year for them to be doing this. I don't just mean inappropriate from a moral standpoint, but very un-Games Workshop. Normally, it's very traditionally in a very specific part of the year, which was in June, July, when they did it already. But that's not really the story here. Because make no mistake, this is a real story. This is actually happening. It's been confirmed by several sources at this point, which is the point where I took down because I had shared this in a couple of different places, calling out the fact that it was fake. And whilst I still stand by that, the image itself, I still stand by the fact that the image itself is fake. The story is real. And the story is a big problem. So for those of you that are not Socks, does your local game store sell Games Workshop stuff?
Yes, they do. That's probably, they've got one whole wall section that's all Games Workshop, and then they have their typical paint stand for their Citadel paints. So yes.
Do they sell it at full price?
That I'm not aware of, just because I don't look at that.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Our typical.
When it comes to third-party gaming stores, most of the Games Workshop business they get, usually speaking, because they offer a discount on it. Not all stores offer the same discount. The biggest usually being the online ones, and Games Workshop have been trying to sabotage those online businesses for a long time now. And I do mean sabotage. They've been attacking them on purpose quite deliberately. They have been trying to kill that practice because they tend to offer like up to 20% off. And I mean, it makes no difference to Games Workshop apart from the fact that if people buy directly from Games Workshop, obviously they make 100% of the profit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what this is doing, is trying to decrease the opportunity for stores to do that. Now, the trade that a third-party store makes on Games Workshop products is usually quite high. Make no mistake, if they're offering 20%, they're still making a profit on that.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like, stores don't sell things at a loss on purpose. Stores will sometimes sell certain products at a loss, because the idea is that you'll come in and buy that and then everything else as well. That's usually how catalogs work. It's also kind of one of the things about Black Friday, is that you will buy the one thing that you come in there for, and you'll probably grab a few other things that aren't as good as you think they are. So this is really, really, because, like, make no mistake, this is a bad thing. Discourse Miniatures made a big 20-minute video on this. And I'm calling out Discourse. Well, I'm not calling out. I'm giving credit here because Discourse Miniatures are pretty much right on the ball when it comes to this. This is an attack on the gaming community. And why am I calling it an attack? If you think that third-party stores making less money and going out of business is good for your hobby, you are very confused.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying this because I want to hate on Games Workshop. I mean, I prefer other games personally, but I don't hate their product. I don't hate the company. I hate a lot of their practices because they are toxic. This is disgusting. Like, Games Workshop should be supporting the businesses that make them money.
Yeah. Agreed.
Games Workshop cannot afford to have stores in every city, and given that most of their stores have been losing money for a long time now, they should be supporting their third-party customers, not trying to sabotage their business. Now, make no mistake, 20%, 5.8%, like there is obviously a difference there. I am aware of that. But this is going to be a big enough difference that people are going to notice this. And unfortunately, what's your experience like with retail socks? If you walk in, if people walk into a store and they see that a discount that was once there is now not longer there, what do they see that as? Because I brought this up in our chat. Like, this is going to mean people will be abused. Because people will walk into store and get upset that the prices have been raised, even though they haven't. Like, recommended retail price is not changing at this point. Or what is it in America? MSRP?
MSRP.
Yeah. Like, that's not being changed, but this will mean that the prices will change. Wizards did this recently, except Wizards did it even worse. Like, Wizards just removed the MSRP for products. So that they would go, yep, nope, it's not our problem now. And they would basically deliberately push things so that stores had no choice but to sell things at an inappropriate price. And then they would just blame the stores and say that it was the store's price for not playing fair, which it wasn't. Now, Games Workshop have not done that. They are being accused of that, but they have not done that. But this is bad. Everybody should be seeing it as bad, and Games Workshop should not be getting away with it. I call out to the community to only support your third-party stores, and I do mean only. With the exception of, obviously, some people don't have any choice, and they only have Games Workshop stores. But if you have a friendly game store in your area, support them, not the company that is trying to kill them. Because if the store that you play at dies, guess what? You have nowhere to play. I've had my rant. Do you have any thoughts on it other than what I've said?
No, you're absolutely spot on, because I used to work at a game store and in college. And so, and being, in a sense, threatened by a manufacturer to say, okay, either keep these increase your prices and have your customer base get angry with you, and we're not going to back you. In a sense, it's a situation that they're putting game stores, as you stated, and the employees that work at those game stores, because they're not going to really, unless they're really looking to this, answer those questions of why'd you increase the prices by 10%, other than, well, Games Workshop increased their price, so we had to increase our price. Well, that's all right then, fine.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that the moment anybody ever talks negative about Games Workshop, the Games Workshop community tends to attack that person, because and it's not everybody, it's a vocal minority, but so many of them are so lost within that system that everything else is somebody else's problem. It's not Games Workshop. How dare you speak ill about Games Workshop? It becomes a big problem to the point where some people, and I mean legitimately, get abused over the fact that they choose to play something that's not Games Workshop.
It's true. I can attest to that.
It happens
No, I can attest to
regularly.
that.
Oh, you want to play Infinity? Ugh. Oh, you're one of those people.
Or you've never touched Games Workshop? Okay.
Why don't you
luckily I
play
have some good.
Socks? Why don't you play a real game?
Yeah, exactly.
It is legitimate. If you don't think this is happening, you're very mistaken. I hope that you're not that person.
Listen to us. I'm one of those people that can attest that it happens because it's happened to me in the past.
Oh, it's happened to a lot of us. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Indie. Definition. Independent. Type. Slang word. Jargon.
So a company that we've tried to look at before, but some websites weren't working, and so
Yeah.
it's up and running for us.
So,
In the States.
Crooked Dice. Crooked Dice are a company that a lot of people have probably heard of before. I have touched on them before. And like Socks hinted at, we have tried to cover these guys a couple of times, but it wouldn't load for Socks on the weekend that we were trying to look at it, so we ended up having to cut that section from the episode entirely. It was very, very frustrating for me because it was working for me. But you know what's really hard? Having a conversation about minis when only one person can see the minis.
Yeah, that one looks cool. I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry.
Yeah, I know, right? So, what do Crooked Dice do? So, Crooked Dice have a game called 7TV. And basically the way that this game works is that you are recreating episodes of a TV show. So it's a kind of a game that you can kind of do anything with it. They were on Kickstarter recently for some really cool looking vampire minis that I was going to cover, but from memory, I don't think we did. But what sort of minis did they do? Yes, they do a lot of different things.
Pick your type and you've got it.
Yeah. Just looking at the side here, just as an example with the product categories. Corporate Wars, Fantasy, Grandville, Horror, Post-Apocalyptic, Pulp, Science Fiction, Colony 87, Spy-Fi. All very different things. So, if we open miniatures, the first thing I want to look at is Abomination. Because, I am sorry, but this is the bad guy from Thundercats. This is Mumra. That is what it is. Now, obviously, they've made it their own thing, sort of. Spawned from some unholy union, this diabolical being may be from the pits of hell or bioengineered beast. It may be a misunderstood monster aiding the lost and desperate. Or perhaps it's old Nick himself wandering the wastelands in search of souls. Everything kind of gets their own spin on it. But there's a lot of things in here that's definitely not that thing. Like, for example, if we open up Spy-Fi, we will definitely not eventually come across several different versions of James Bond. We definitely won't find that. Just like we definitely don't see a tripod straight out of War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds, yeah.
They also definitely don't have a Robocop, and they definitely don't have an Ed 209. These guys literally, like, anything that you want. So, if you scroll down, there's a really cool looking bear, but underneath that,
Yeah.
Best of Enemies, that's Blofeld and Bond.
Yep.
I'm waiting for it to load because I'm wondering which Bond it is. It's Connery. It is the Connery Bond as well. But on the other side of that is definitely not the Thundercats. This is definitely not the Thundercats. Why are you trying to suggest that it's the Thundercats? Look, they don't have a cat on their logo at all. It's just like an eye looking thing. I don't know why you continue to suggest that this is the Thundercat socks. You should stop that.
Not me.
There's a lot of this sort of stuff as well. Like there's a lot of this. It's definitely not that thing that you think that it is.
Yeah.
At one point, these guys used to have a whole lot of definitely not Doctor Who things. On page 2, you will get the Cyborg Enforcer, which is definitely not a clever way of naming RoboCop. It's definitely not that. It just happens to be a cyborg that is also a police officer. That could be anybody. If you want to do something that's a little bit left of center, or you want to represent something, or find a mini that represents something, hang on, how many page lines down? 1, 2, 3. I believe it's the 6th line. Editor in chief.
Yeah.
That's definitely not Stan Lee.
No, I was going to say that's not Stan Lee at all.
Oh, I just saw something else. Was it our chat recently that had the Danger 5 shared in it, or am I thinking of a different chat?
You might be thinking of someone else.
Okay, never mind. It's a very, very, very stupid show on purpose. Very much playing on lots of 60s tropes. Yeah. Like I said, if you can picture something, these guys probably have it, and if they don't have it yet, they will have it soon. Lots of really, really cheesy looking aliens, lots and lots of cliche looking gangsters, monsters. I love their giant ape. The ape is awesome. Actually, there are quite a few apes. Oh, there's Jaws. I just saw Jaws. Jaws is down at the bottom of the page. And Hero Cops. Who are the Hero Cops? These look
Definitely
like...
not. Bottom of page 4, they've got Planet of the Apes. Definitely not Planet of the Apes.
Oh, yeah, no, it's definitely not Planet of the Apes. Let's go to page 4. While we're looking at page 4, there we have Jaws and Oddjob.
Yep.
Oddjob definitely looks different. It doesn't actually look like Oddjob that much. They've definitely done their own thing with it. I mean, all of them are kind of like, they don't look exactly like what they are. They're always slightly to the left, enough that you can see what it's supposed to be, but it's more representative of that and more generic versions of it. These great apes are amazing.
Yeah. Terry the Terror Tonker, definitely not Willy Wonka.
Hang on. Bottom of page 4. No, sorry. 3rd line down. I just saw something I actually own. Paranormal Investigators. I own this set. It's the Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. I own this. They've also done... Hang on. Paranormal Investigators 2 has the expansions from the second movie. So we get Lewis, we get Ray with the giant tank, and we also get Dana as well, which is kind of cool. And I think there's even a 3rd one.
There is. I know there's a Lego version of it, but do you actually have their vehicle from the set here on page 3?
I don't have their version
4?
of it,
Sorry.
no. I don't have their version of it, but I do have the Lego one, yes. Paranormal Investigators 3, that's the 2016 Ghostbusters. And actually, a really good-looking version of it.
Mm-hmm.
They look incredible. I mean, regardless of what you think about that movie, those minis look amazing. I love the fact that they've actually painted them up to look like the old Ghostbusters rather than the new ones.
The new ones, yeah.
Like they've painted them up so, I mean, they look like out of the movie, but the uniforms look like they belong in the old ones. I like that. There's also Krang as well, which is kind of cool. The otherworldly invader. Now, on the bottom of Road Agents.
Yeah. I just saw that.
I forgot about this. I can't think what the bad guy's name is. I know Muttley, but I can't think what... Is it Dick Dastardly? It's Dick Dastardly. I'm sure it is.
So.
What was on the bottom of page 4 we were looking at?
Bottom right-hand corner, Simian Minions.
That's it.
Definitely not Planet of the Apes.
I have so many tabs open at this point. I should probably close some of them.
And then where I just saw. Oh yeah, middle of 5 kind of. Third row down, middle of the column, middle of the row.
Yeah.
Terry the Terror Conquer. Definitely not Willy Wonka. Yeah, there's some good minis here. And then
That's
a few rows
really
down,
good. What was you saying, Socks? You went quiet.
Middle of Tiny Temple. Tiny doesn't look like JFK at all. Page 5 as well.
Page
He's a few.
5.
He's a few rows down from. Willy Wonka.
Tiny Templeton. Okay.
He looks a little bit like JFK.
It does a little bit, actually. I don't know if that's actually deliberate or not.
I don't know if it's deliberate at all, but his face looks very similar.
Yeah. Lost Time Heroes is interesting. So this is very much pulp TV right here. We've got a time traveler. We've got a flying ace. A jetpack hero. So, like I said, if you can imagine something, these guys have something that will fit. It's all very pulpy. Like, it all kind of feels like this stuff has come from an age where the budget on this TV show is really cheap. So it's all like very cheesy Star Wars. Sorry, not very cheesy Star Trek, very cheesy Doctor Who, very cheesy spy fictions. There's a lot of fun that you can have on this website. And because the idea is quite literally that it's a TV show, you can kind of do anything you want with it. And keeping in mind, all we've looked at was the spy-fi section. We haven't even gone into anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, we could. I just clicked on horror very quickly. And obviously, there is going to be some crossover here. But basically, all you're doing is you're picking what you want to represent, and you're just going to town.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much fun. Crooked Dice have been around for a while. They are a staple of the industry. They are a small company, but 7TV is the way that you're looking. That is what you're going. They've got specific rules for certain things, and they are expanding it all the time. But even if you don't want to go into the game itself, if you want to find something like unique to lead your army or to play in something, have a browse because they have so many things.
Trim, glue, prime, paint.
Socks, what have you been up to?
So I told you a few weeks ago I was going to work on some Shadow Collective. Well, I started working on some Shadow Collective, the Black Sun Enforcers. Got their little armor plate painted up. I had some purple that I thought was the purple that I wanted, but it's not as royal purple that I would like based off some of the pictures from some of the studio artwork. And that's what I'm trying to go for.
That makes sense.
And pick up the right color or something similar than what I have. So that's as far as I got before the holidays hit me, and I'm not going out on Black Friday just to go get a pot of paint. Nope. I can wait a few days. So
I think that's, given that there's people that get trampled every year, that's probably a good decision.
Yeah. So that's what I've been working on. I'm finally done. So hopefully I'll have them close to being done by the next recording. So Bruce, what have you been up to?
I was priming some things yesterday. Kind of going a little bit out of the ordinary. So this is track. This is actually, hang on, let me turn my blurring off because it won't show up properly otherwise. So this is track from Bushido. He is one of the guys that I unboxed recently. I also have, and this is an unboxing that's not on the channel yet, so maybe I shouldn't be showing it off, but I also have the Bakimono Boomers, which I've also primed up. I've primed this I've literally slap chopped this, which I find hilarious because slap chop is more or less what I've been doing with my speed paint from the start. I was doing it with an airbrush, but it's essentially the same thing. Yeah. And now I'm like, damn it, if I had been showing people how I did it, I could have this really successful video. But no, it's like somebody else did it. It's like, I've been doing this for years. Come on, that's not fair. It's my own fault for not doing more hobby videos and more doing unboxings. Yeah, so I've been doing a little bit of that. I've also prepped another model for the secret project, which our patrons will know about. There is a particular character that I want to paint up that may feature in it at some point with a little bit of fluoro going on. I don't know if I'm going to paint that today. He has been primed, ready to go with light grey and white because there's no way you're getting a fluoro colour otherwise. And can I get into it? I can.
Nope. Not going to happen.
Oh, no, it's broken.
Uh-oh.
No, it's all right. It was going to happen anyway. So, I bought a limited edition miniature from Infinity with the intention of destroying it. And yes, I just said destroy it. So, the mini itself was a Christmas-themed Fat One, where basically he's on a jet-powered Harley Davidson, and it's covered in Christmas presents. Yep, I have been slicing off all of the presents, slowly but surely, with my razor saw, to the point where I purchased a razor saw for the first time. I've never owned one before, because I've never had a reason to. I avoid metal minis like the plague. But yeah, I did that because, well, if I was going to do it like this is the only way. I asked about this 12 months ago if people thought that doing this was realistic, and basically the answer I got from the Infinity community, and they were right, was that no, because it's all on theme and you have to remove too much for it to be worth it. Like, quite literally, like, this is the piece that I've removed. It originally was like this tall. I have half the size of it already, and I still basically I have to completely carve off, and then I'm gonna have to recreate that. This is the person that doesn't like green stuff. With the rest of this, realistically, I'm either gonna have to go for a Dremel, which is what I'm hoping to do later today, because I have a friend with a Dremel, and I'm going to my friend's place after this episode uploads. Or begins to upload. So yeah, that's where I am at this stage. Unfortunately, like I said, it has broken, but that's my own fault because of the way that I'd stored it, I guess. And well, it's a metal mini; it was always going to break.
Yeah,
it is what it is. But that's all right. Realistically, I only need to take that bit with me, so I'm going to repack it with just that bit. Otherwise, my 3D printer broke, which is really annoying. That was the timing of that was really, really frustrating because it was something I needed and it broke. I could replace the screen, which is what broke. Basically, it had been stored for a little bit because I hadn't actually used it for probably 4 or 5 months at this point, just because I had no reason to.
Yeah.
Well, that's not entirely true. I mean, there's things I could have printed, but I wasn't because I was concentrating on other things. Because I've had all this stuff that I've been buying, and I haven't been actually painting any of it. Like my Conquest, for example, that I started back up on recently.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually went back to that, and I was like, oh, I should really get it going because I'd love to do it for this particular Kickstarter. I also want to print some trees. And I looked up the price of the screen. The actual screen is like $40. It's actually very affordable. But for me to get it here in Australia, there's $120 worth of postage. And I'm like, is it cheaper than buying a new printer? Yes, but at that point, that's really not the point. Because I can buy a brand new replacement for like $200. It's like stupid. Does that make sense? No, but yeah, it's paying 3 times what I should be for something is something I find incredibly offensive. And it's not just the particular brand of printer that I have; it's all of them. Like they are all bad for this, as far as our country is concerned. I could buy it from Amazon, and it would be here within the week. And they will do free postage, but they're charging me $160 for a $40 product. Because they know they can get away with it. So, at this particular point in time, I'm not going to fix it. I have chosen to take this opportunity to upgrade my printer because I would like to print some bigger things, and I can't on the printer that I have. And I took this opportunity to purchase an upgrade. So I have an Anycubic Mono X coming that I got for, it was the Black Friday deals, and then on top of that I got a 22% off as well. So I've got it for like a really stupid, ridiculous price. I'm also getting the newer, larger version of their cleaning and curing station because I will need it because it's a bigger printer. My intention with this one is to try to move across to the water washable resins so that I don't have the stickiness of the IPA on everything. It's still no less toxic, and I want to make that clear because people seem to forget that. Because it's water washable. There's nothing wrong with it. No, there is still a lot wrong with it. You still have to do everything. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know if people want to see an unboxing of that. It's at least a year and a half old, that printer, at this stage. So I doubt that there's a lot of interest in people doing an unboxing of that. But let me know. I will if you want me to. But yeah, I've kind of been limited in my hobby for the last couple of weeks. Mainly because, in all honesty, I've kind of been concentrating elsewhere. It's kind of like I've been doing a lot of work. I returned to Secret Project and I did a little bit of tweaking on that this week. I actually added in a little bit of the lore that was originally in a different document. Because at the start of a rule book, you would normally have like the little taster of what the world is before they go into the actual lore. So I've kind of like done, I think it's like a paragraph of just like, this is what the city is, this is when it was founded, this is the struggles that it had. Mm-hmm. But it's always kind of had that underlying criminal element that people haven't really noticed until now. The city tried to do something about it. It kind of backfired. And now we live in a city that's full of gangs and da-da-da-da. It's, how did we get to this point?
Yeah.
Because just saying that it's a thing about this is fine, but you need to actually, people expect to at least have some semblance of an idea of how this world became that way.
Talk nerdy to me.
That we should probably talk about something that we promised last episode. What do you think, Socks?
Yeah.
Dropzone Commander. So, I'm going to start, first and foremost, by starting with the actual starter set.
Yep.
So, the current version of the UCM starter set. So, well, if you want to buy
the deal.
Yeah. If you want to buy into the UCM, there's 2 ways that you can do it. You can either buy the starter army, or you can buy the 2-player starter set and split it. Because the 2-player starter set comes with half UCM and half Scourge. Now, clearly what you should be doing is throwing the UCM in the bin and keeping the Scourge.
Nope.
But we're not here to talk about the Scourge, even though they are the best faction. We're here to talk about the UCM.
No, we're not.
Now that I've finished annoying all of the UCM players,
They've shut us off. They've shut us off now. Thanks, Bruce. We're supposed to be talking about them and what units to expand upon these new players, and they're not going to listen to us now. So back to the glorious UCM.
yeah. So the UCM starter army basically is the original starter box, but they've doubled it. Plus, they have added the rock in. Wait, was it the rock that they added?
Not the rock. They've added a little Raven drop troop. What is it? A Raven light dropship. The Wolf Command Lav, which is
The Wolf Command. Yep.
which is your commander in a sense.
Yep.
Starter army.
Yeah. So what you get 34 minis. 2 of them are resin. So yes, it's led by your Wolf Lav. You get a whole heap of stuff.
Yeah, 6 sabers and 6 katanas. The sabers are your anti-tank little tanks, and your katanas are your anti-air. And then you get 4 bear APCs and 3 base squads of legionnaires.
Yeah.
So
you've also got the
and then-
anti-air rapiers as well. There's 6 of those.
Yep.
There's 12 bases of the
Did I say
legionnaires,
katanas?
apparently. Yeah,
I
you
did
said
say
katanas.
Sorry, you were right. The rapiers.
Yeah. So yeah, 6 tank hunting sabers, 6 anti-air rapiers, 12 bases of legionnaires, all in bear APCs. So this is a solid core for any army. Are there other ways that you can build your army? Of course there are. This is a game. All of them have different ways to build it. But this is the best way to buy in because it's only £35. This is an insanely good deal.
And you get your 6 condors that you need to transport all your APCs and saber and rapier tanks. So
yeah. So this is a mixture of different things. A lot of this is plastic. There is a couple of resin things in here as well. You also get some fast play and some templates. It doesn't come with a copy of the rulebook, but the rulebook is downloadable on the website. And then all of the actual unit rules are on dropzonecommander.com, which is where I am now. You will find them all in the army builder. But the other thing we were going to do is to suggest a couple of things to add to the army. But first and foremost, Socks, how does the UCM play generally speaking?
So they are very utilitarian. They will have some units that have long range, not as long range as say the Shautari, but they won't be as close range as the Scourge because just like if you're familiar with Drop Fleet, Scourge like to be up close and personal, and that's how they play here in Drop. The Scourge like to be up close and personal. They're very, very fast movers. Their tanks can move across the ground really, really fast. Whereas the UCM, their tanks move. What is it? For example, the Saber tank has a move value of 4 inches, which is about average, I would say, in the
Average,
game.
yeah.
And then they have if you're shooting at a unit that doesn't have countermeasures across the board, but if you're shooting something that has countermeasures, then you're shooting 24 inches, which is about average, as I said. And so they are one of the easiest factions to learn to play, just because they're kind of the middle ground of all 5 factions.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very good way to learn a new game, I would say, and then you can expand out from there.
Yeah.
So they do have some specialized units, and we'll talk about those, like Bruce said, some of the units that we suggest you add to later on.
So, as far as adding is concerned, we're not necessarily suggesting things that are the most competitive thing to take. We're trying to suggest things that will add something to your army that the starter set isn't already doing, or enhances it in a way that is fun or does something better than something that's in there. We are not suggesting any behemoths for any of these factions. And the reason for that is not because they're not good. They are. But that's not the place that we would recommend that you start for the game. That is something that we would recommend that you build towards. Because at that point, it's a completely different game. And that is not something that we would suggest for a beginner.
With the point value of a behemoth, I would say if you're going to play a 2,000 plus point game, that's when you start bringing a behemoth.
Mm-hmm.
Because at 500 points, you play at 1,500 points, that's a 30-year army right there.
Yep.
So I would say anything above 2,000, maybe even 500, is when you start thinking about bringing a behemoth.
And if you're bringing something that big, that's such a large chunk of your points, you really need to understand how the game works already. Because that's very much risk-reward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can
Agreed.
that thing destroy things? Of course it can. But if it loses, if it dies,
There
then
goes a 30-year army.
just lost a third of your army, yeah. Socks. What would be the first thing that you want to talk about?
So I know we talked about one. Actually, I'll talk about this one first. I'm going to recommend the Rock Heavy Gunship, and it's a heavy unit. It's 220 points, but the reason why I would recommend this is it's a command center type unit. So it's got the big radar dish that you kind of see the Air Forces have for their surveillance command centers, but it has a lot of weapons. It has a move of 16. It has heavy armor, 10 hit points, or armor 10, 9 hit points. It's aircraft type. But between the command center ability, the AA batteries that can shoot down other aircraft, and the twin missile pods, you can pretty much hit a lot of units. The missile battery is pretty nice too because it's an effect, and so if there's a bunch of light tanks in the area, you can, in a sense, do an artillery strike on that area and hit multiple units. And so, it's a squad size of 1. And yes, like I said, it's 220 points, but you're going to be able to do a lot of stuff with that and be able to use it as a command center if you need to.
Yep.
So that would be one.
It's very versatile too. Like you can.
It is very versatile.
You've got some anti-air here. There's some stuff that you can use to focus in on your troops. There's penetrative stuff if you need to take down something with armor. The area weapon there is really good.
The minigun triads are nice because if there are troops inside the buildings that are up against the building walls and shooting out the windows, you can use those to just tear apart those infantry and inside those buildings very, very well. And so very versatile as a one unit squad.
Plus it looks cool.
It does look very, very cool. So what would you be your recommendation or first one, Bruce?
I'm going to start with the one that you don't think I'm going to. I'm going to go for the mortar team first.
Yep.
So, the mortar team is something that you're adding to your troops, and this is purely because this is something that doesn't come in the box set. The box set is very much your Legionnaires, it's very much your stock standard troops. These guys will fill a completely different purpose on the battlefield. They're only moving 2. Obviously, like everything else, they're supposed to be going inside the transports to get where they're going. They've got armor 7, damage 6, but they have mortars. So, front, side, and rear, 48-inch, full 24-inch countered. They get 3 shots. It's an accuracy of 4+. It's energy 6, alt 1, because you can either have a mortar round or a concussion round. The mortar round has an area of effect. It's indirect, penetrative, and reduced 1. The concussion round is indirect and reduced 1. So it's a matter of what you want this to do, what you're attacking. Loader, this unit reduces its shots by 1 for every 2 damage it's lost, so it does become less effective as it's been hurt. The mortar round cannot combine its fire from the reduced rule. The concussion round, if a garrison is hit by this weapon, all infantry inside are moved away from the edges, and no infantry can move to the edge during this round. So basically, this can do a couple of different things. Either you can use the penetrative to get through that armor, or you can get things. You can stun them. Basically, is what you're doing.
Stun them and get them away from the edges of the building so they can't shoot your tanks or your
Yeah.
troops through the edge. And so this would be something if you're taking the rock heavy gunship, this would be something that you would want to use sparingly if they're shooting you against the window and you have that rock nearby. If you don't have a rock, then yeah, this is because then you're, as you said, you're stunning them from that turn and from shooting your troops or tanks.
If you're having trouble with a certain building that keeps on getting to you, this is how you take the effectiveness of that building out for the rest of that turn. So
Yep.
and then you can get your guys in there and then slaughter them.
True. True.
Socks, where are you going next?
I'm going down to the auxiliary and transport because I'm going to talk about the Vulture troop ship.
Yep.
Now you have two different troop ship options as you see them. You've got the Raven light troop ship. I would go with the Vulture troop ship just because it is a little bit slower of a mover. It has a 20 or an 18-inch range of movement instead of a 24 like the Raven troop ship is. But the reason why I would take the Vulture is because you get Gatling guns as well as AA battery, and you can carry two squads in a sense instead of one. So being able to take, plus it has 2 damage versus the one that the Raven does. Same armor as the Raven, but you got 2 damage points. And the ability to bring in 2 troop squads with this is pretty nice. So this would be a replacement or addition to your Bear APC. The fast moving troop ships, because you fly in your troops a lot faster. Bears can bring in your Bear APCs and your Bears can roll around on the ground. Because if you think about it, the Condor moves 18 inches, same movement as the Vulture troop ship. However, it's going to move 9 inches if you're dropping this. And then the Bear APC only moves. The Vulture troop ship, yes, it can move. If it lands and drops troops, it's going to be 9 inches. But most of the time, there's buildings beyond 9 inches that you're going to be flying this out to. Most of the time, the center of the. So you're going to want these troop ships to go get objective in buildings or near the center objective because your Condors aren't going to get there soon enough.
Yeah, and like you said, this also gives you the
APCs.
Yeah, and like you said, this also gives you the option of taking the anti-air, especially if you know that you are facing someone that really likes their air. The more options you have to take that sort of stuff is going to be better. Obviously, that comes down to if you know your opponent well or not, or if you know that that's an army that tends to use a lot of it effectively or not.
Yeah, well, even if they don't like to take their air, use them to shoot down their troop ships. Their drop ships. That way, if they get an objective, they have to walk out on the streets because they're not going to have or they have to get back into their armored personnel carriers of type. Because you just took out their troop ship or their drop ship that was carrying that APC or those troops in. So that air-to-air option with the Vulture is pretty nice.
Yep.
So that would be my second option.
I am moving back up to our heavy stuff because I want to talk about the broadsword now. Both of the broadsword and the rock are both things that we raved about when we were covering the heavy stuff when we were doing this in its previous altercation. The broadsword is one of these weapons that just gives you options, and options are what? They are good.
Yes.
So this thing moves 4 inches, so obviously it's slow to come on. You can obviously carry this on with something if you need to. It's a big tank. It's got armor 15, damage 4. By default, it has the Mythslayer railgun. There's no move and fire. It's front, side, and rear. Infinite range, or 36 inches counted, which is still half the table.
Actually, more than half the table.
Depends on whether you're on a 4x4 or a 6x4.
Yes. If you're playing on a 6x4 lengthwise or widthwise.
Oh, yeah, no, it's still... Yeah, no, you're right.
Widthwise, on a 4x4, you're shooting 3/4 of the table.
Yeah.
If you go lengthwise on a 6x4, you're shooting halfway the table. So,
and then it's going to be a matter of it's the at that point it's going to be the terrain that stops you.
Yep.
You do only get one shot with this. It's an accuracy of 1+, which is just insane.
Energy, you should be able to roll on that.
I might be okay.
Should.
Energy 13, Devastator 3 against vehicles, Devastator 2 against behemoths. That's important, especially if you're in the later game where you will be taking those things. Optionally, you can replace its Myth Slayer railgun with a Hex demolition cannon, or a Frag demolition cannon and Nemesis for no cost. So it doesn't cost you anything to do this, but it's an option that you have. The demolition cannon still doesn't move and fire. This one's only front and side, no rear. 24 inches on both of them. The counted is 18 for the demolition, and it's 12 for the tremor rotary. They both have 2 shots. Accuracy is 2+ on a demolition cannon, so I might hit 1 out of every 6. Me, yeah. Most people will be fine with that. I just suck. Energy 10 on the demolition. Devastator 4 against scenery, which is, I wonder why it's called a demolition cannon. Oh, because it demolishes things.
Like buildings.
I know. The tremor rotary cannon is a 3+. It's energy 5. It has cover all, which I think is the one where you can shoot through cover from memory.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because it's a flame. It's a flame type of weapon, so flame weapons can negate all types of covers.
Yep, and it's got strafe too. So this can fill a couple of different places on the table because you've got options. Options are good. It's only 85 points. It's something that you can add to your army that you don't already have, and it's a beast of a unit. Like, this thing can fulfill a couple of different places. There's always something that you can find for this thing to do. It's just, to me, this is a no-brainer. Because
and with 15 armor, that's one of the strongest armors in the game, and so not a lot of things are going to be, unless you have something like you said, the energy 13 of the Mist Layer railgun. Something else with the energies 12 or 13 will be able to hit this thing and do some damage, but it's not going to be very rare because on a energy 13, they got the roll of 2 up.
Yeah.
So, whereas a 10 is going to need a roll of 5 or 6.
And again, it looks cool.
It does.
What do you got, Socks?
So I know we talked about 1 unit of infantry beforehand, off camera. I'm actually going to switch. I'm going to go back up. It's still infantry, but I'm going to go back up to the troop section. And I'm going to talk about the Praetorian Spec Ops teams.
Oh, this is the one that I thought you were talking about the first time. Yep.
Now, I was talking about the sniper team first, but I'm going to switch to these guys because these are your Spec Ops teams. During version 1, these were actually considered exotic troops. So you had to take these in a certain point limit games. You had to play them in higher point limit games because they were considered exotic troops because they were your special forces. Anyways, now that they've changed the point value in the game structure, you can now take these in a regular game as well. They are twice the point value, but at armor 7, move of 2 inches, armor 7, damage 5, infantry 2+, that's their fortitude save. They have a dodge of 4+. So anytime they get hit or they have falling roof tiles or whatnot from buildings getting collateral damage and stuff like that, if you roll a dodge, you have dodge of 4+ value. So if you roll a dodge and you roll a 4+, they don't take any damage.
But then they also have it's a 50-50 chance if you're not me.
It is, yes. But here's the big one. Rapid insertion of 4 inches. So going back to my second option of bringing the Vulture troop ship, if you're flying these things in, these guys can land on the rooftops instead of climbing in through the bottom floor. If anything, it's 4 inches, within 4 inches or whatnot. So these guys can get in really, really fast to those buildings in the middle of the board and find those objectives and get out quickly if they do. Their SMGs are pretty nice too. Front side rear, 12-inch full, 6-inch counter, 10 shots, 2+ accuracy, energy 2, a reduction of 2 for every health you've lost. But then their close quarters are pretty nice, especially their 5 shots at 5 energy. You will be taking out some Shaltari troops with that energy of 5.
And if you're going to take out anybody, it really should be the Shaltari. I mean, they deserve it, really.
Shaltari with their war suits are one of the hardest units to get rid of, and so this
Yeah.
would be a unit that I would take if you have a player in your community who likes playing the Shaltari a lot. I would definitely bring some Praetorian Spec Ops guys for that purpose. That way you could use something, because your Legionnaires are just chewed to pieces going up against Braves and war suits. So that would be my third option, going along with that Vulture troop. Get them in quickly. And get them back out. Or if they need to be there, stand their ground and wipe out a team of Scourge or Shaltari or even the Resistance or anybody else, the Praetorian can do it. They can handle their own.
Don't listen to Captain Socks. He's been demoted.
Major.
He's been demoted.
Major.
No. You spoke ill against the Scourge. How dare you? You get demoted. All
Fair
right.
enough.
Moving on. All right, my last option is the Flail Heavy Tank. People may remember that when I first looked at this, I didn't quite get it. But the more we read through the rules, the more we went, no, this is really good. So this is another tank. It's another unit I'm adding because it does something that nothing in that starter set does. Like its move is short. Obviously, you're going to be bringing this in other ways. Armor 15 again, which is really good. Its special is wide, but you get a twin Gatling cannon, front and side, 36 inches full, 12 inches close. It's got 4 shots of a 3+, so I might hit one occasionally.
Yep.
For those of you that don't know why I always make those remarks, it is a running joke based on real fact that D6s hate me, just for the record. 3+ is usually fairly decent. It's a little bit better than average. Energy of 3, there's nothing special. However, it's also got a Tesla array. And this is where this thing really shines. It's one shot, accuracy of 2+, energy of 12. When firing this weapon, roll to hit as if targeting the firing unit. The firing unit is not damaged, but all other units, including behemoths within 4 inches, are hit. After rolling to hit, you may reduce the energy of this shot to increase the range of its effectiveness by 1 for each point of energy the shot is reduced by. So you're aiming for a unit, and if you hit it, it doesn't do anything to that, but everything around that is absolutely ruined. It's amazing. And yeah, including behemoths is an important one here, because there's not a lot. You are limited in how you can effectively deal with behemoths, which is why I said that's not somewhere that you start. It's somewhere that you go to. It's somewhere that you go to later. Once you've gotten the grips of the game, then you start bringing in the bigger stuff. And yeah, like I said, I'm bringing this in because it does something that nothing else on the field does. It's a fairly unique unit, this in the game, actually.
Yeah.
There's not a lot that really go in this direction. The good thing about Dropzone Commander is there's not really much in this game that's like, well, I don't see why you would ever take it. Like in Drop Fleet, there's definitely some units in Drop Fleet where you're like, I just don't get why you would ever take this.
Mm-hmm.
But everything in this game has a place. These are just some suggestions that we're making to give you some more variety in your force, allow you to do things that you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. It gives you a basis of somewhere to start.
Yep. Agreed.
So, that's it for now. If you already play Dropzone Commander and you have suggestions that you feel that new players need to know, throw them down in the comments, because you might have been playing this game longer than we have, or at least longer than I have. It's worth a go.
Yep.
And if we don't talk about these sort of things more often, new people won't come into the game, so we should be doing it more frequently. If you are not already, do a search for Dropzone Commander Community and join that group. If this is a game that you're interested in, that is a group that you must join. It is the community hub for this game. Drop Fleet Commander Community for Drop Fleet, obviously. We don't have a Drop Squad Commander community yet because the game doesn't exist yet. It's very clearly coming, but it doesn't exist yet.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
Speaking of Drop Zone Commander, the Drop Zone Commander community still has a competition that's going. At time of recording, I think you still have 3 days. Yes, you've got 3 days to enter the competition because you need to join the competition before December 1st. And then you have until the end of the year to complete your entry. So the entrance to this it's a terrain building competition. So you're supposed to build and paint up a piece of terrain and present rules for that piece of terrain to work in the game. They've done this a couple of times. It's always a lot of fun to see what the community comes up with in this. So again, you need to reply to the thread, which will be linked in the comments, before December 1st, and then complete your entry before the end of 2022. Conquest has a tournament coming up on November 28th. So this is tomorrow. Oh, actually, it's the 26th for you. So it's 2 days at time of recording. So it's happening on
Monday.
Yeah, it's a Monday.
Why is it?
Yeah, that's weird.
That's a weird day for a tournament.
Oh, well. Anyway. Is Monday a public holiday for you?
No.
Maybe it's meant to be 27th. That's weird. Anyway.
Or today. Or meant to be today. But I don't know why it would be today in the middle of either. Anyways.
Weird. Anyway, the tournament is either 1750 or 2,000 points. This sounds a lot more confusing than it really is. The actual point cost will be decided on the day. I really liked this idea. Basically, you're supposed to submit 2 different lists, and you will find out on the day which one you actually are playing with. It's a really unique idea. I'd love to see this sort of thing used more often, because it means that you can't be entirely comfortable with what's happening on the day. You are going to be somewhat thinking on your feet, and I really like that idea. It's not just a matter of, well, this is what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. But you may not be doing that because your point system... I mean, you could essentially have a 1750 list and then you add another 250 points on. But I suspect that what most people will be doing will be building 2 completely different lists because that's what would make sense. As far as trying to make it the most effective, you would build specifically around the point value. So rather than, well, it's this plus 250 points, it would make more sense to build up to a certain point value around the list so that the list works properly. So yes, that's coming up. It's in Griffith's Lair Game Shop in PA.
Pennsylvania.
Thank you. I would suggest you're a little bit late for that at this stage, but if you get in quickly, there might still be a spot free if you live in the area. PAX Unplugged is next weekend, December 2nd till 4th. It's really close now. The last PAX of the year.
If you don't have tickets, you may not be going.
Yep. And then lastly, I still think this might be the best tournament name I've ever heard. Miracle on Tumbledown Street. It's a Moonstone event. December 4th, the Otis Games in Leeds, UK. It's 3 rounds, starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, and you will have fun because it's Moonstone. That is what will happen. You will have fun because Moonstone is great. You should play Moonstone. No, you're supposed to nod. You should play Moonstone. See, you're all witnessed. He's just agreed that he should be playing it. All right.
Don't force me to do another game, Bruce.
I'll force you to do anything I want.
No.
Just because you're an air cadet trying to pretend like he's a real man. Patreon.com/gettingtabled. Please support us on Patreon. We have a competition running at the moment through our Patreon. For every month of support that you give us, you go into the entry to win a Shaltari Drop Fleet Commander squad. It contains the Shaltari Dreadnought, Shaltari Starter Set, a Shaltari Cruisers box, and a Shaltari Frigates box. It's enough to build a full fleet, get into the game, It will be posted out to one lucky winner on I believe it's the 2nd of April is the weekend that we record. It's our 4th anniversary. It has not been sponsored. It's not something that was given to us. I purchased this with my own money to give away to one lucky Patreon. It's something I've done specifically to try to drum up some more support. So please support. I would very much appreciate it. What's our Facebook, Socks?
Facebook.com/gettingtabled. And you can find us at YouTube with the same /gettingtabled. And so please subscribe to us as well.
If you want to get in contact with the team, gettingtabled@gmail.com. Reach out. Let us know what your question is. We're always open to feedback. We're always open to work with people. Whether it be a story that you think we should be covering, or you want to get our opinions on something that maybe we haven't commented on. Maybe there's reasons we haven't. Maybe it's a story we don't know about. Reach out. Twitter and Instagram is @gettingtabled, as much as Twitter is a useless place right now. Instagram still is @gettingtabled, though. Gettingtabled.weebly.com and twitch.tv/JasonTheBruce. I have been on break lately. I will be back on Tuesday. It's either Monday or Tuesday. I'm not 100% sure at this stage. But I will be playing Halo. I'm going to be playing Halo, the Master Chief Collection, and it'll be my first time back for a few weeks. So come along and join. It's been a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.
Because you showed up, I will allow you to be called Major again.
Thank you.